Actually got nice details. Lighting. I'm on the lighting. But she is a beauty. She looks straight out of something. Like, look at the Burrell wing. Look at the Centurion wing. I love the details of the kit bash. And if you don't love kit bashes, you don't really love Star Trek. Star Trek is all about kit bashes and has been for a long time. Has been for a very long time. Look at it. Now we got to see how big she is in space.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome back. As today we're going to take a look at the Amalgam, and I really enjoyed playing with this during our live stream today. I thought about saving this video for tomorrow morning, but honestly was too excited about it because of how it works and enjoying it that I wanted to make the video today. So we did the unboxing on Twitch, and now we're going to talk about the math of it, how it works, and the refinery, and all the different pieces to the Amalgam, and also talk about the math. You're going to break down exactly how the bonus works, because I even misquoted it today during the patch video because I was too dang excited this morning and let myself get ahead of myself. But it is really good, and I think it's going to be really effective depending on what you're hitting, and that is obviously going to be the key. First thing I want to point out though, look at all the kit bashing here. Look, we've got Burrell right there. We've got Centurion. We've got Borda/Katinga up here. We've got a Sompek nacelle. Shout out to Gregor who noticed this one. We've got like an Armada round table here. The only question I have, Scopely, how do you walk from one piece of the ship to the other? Because this doesn't look like it's got much there. So how do you get around? Because like, what's this pole here? Like, what are these weird poles and lines? I don't understand. I don't. Anyway, it's a Pakled ship, so I guess it's supposed to be kind of all over the place. So I guess the first point would be to talk about the math and how it works. Now, I will throw on the screen some of that from STFC.space. If you've not used Ripper Site, I encourage you to. I've got mine at Tier 1, Level 5. Now, the first thing I'm sure many of you have been asking is, where can I get the ship? Like any specialty ship that comes out immediately in the game, it is a pay to own for the first day type of deal. So if you want to get it today or as this is coming out, you're going to flesh it out. However, there will be a free-to-play path to get this ship, so don't worry about that. And if you're watching this after the fact, well, you've probably already gotten it free-to-play anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's talk about Combat Scavenger, and we're going to go over a log to show an example. After winning a battle, if the target has more resources than the Amalgam's available cargo space, the Amalgam fills its cargo space and then takes an additional X%, so based on the level of the ship, of the remaining resources. That's of the base. So one key note here, this is going to take the percentage based off whatever in the base, not the cargo hold. So I saw some people saying, well, what if we just made it to where our cargo's bigger? Is that going to help? Doesn't matter. Cargo just needs to be empty for you to collect. And I'll show you an example of that log right here. So if we come to us hitting earlier in the day, it's been a very, very busy day, as y'all can imagine. But here is, no, this one right here. So this is us hitting a base with it and getting an additional 1.3 million resources. So the numbers for this base that we happen to hit was 10 billion par steel, 2 billion titanium, 726 million dilithium. So in one hit, based on a tier 1 level 1 amalgam, I ended up pulling 1.9 million. Now, not a ton. Once again, this is based on the level of the ship and what you're hitting. So let's just break into a little quick math. So we know the level of what that raid base was at. Bam, calculator. So let's go and look. Let's add it together. So 10 billion. Ooh, look at the numbers. We love numbers. Then we're going to add 2 billion. Ooh, 2 billion. Then plus 726 million. Which, one more button. All right, so that brings us to 12.7 billion total resources available on the base. So we know that level 1, tier 1 of my ship is going to be that 0.01%. So the multiplier for that would be right here. Bam, 1.27. So there's a little bit of overlap there in terms of it's not exactly 10 billion. It wasn't exactly 2 billion because I ended up getting, as you saw, like 1.6 billion, 6 million resources, 1.8 million. So I'm missing a little bit there because I didn't have enough of the billions in terms of registered, but you see the math of how it works. Now, for a low level player, like a level 31 who gets this, this might not be worth it. However, it's really quick to see how that can change if we start adding resources, because a 13 billion base is not a very juicy base. I mean, it's juicy, but it's not to the level that a lot of these others are. So let's say that you found a 50 billion base. This. Now let's multiply it by a level 1 tier 1 raider. 5 million extra. So I would get the 600,000 that's in my cargo plus 5 million. Now it's 5.6 million at level 1 tier 1. And here's why that's important. So if we take a look at the cargo capacity, it's really not super high. 1 million with me running this set. I'm running both Stans and then Synergy with 2 of 10. So I'm running a cargo run on the Amalgam. But let's compare. So let's say, for example, we had a maxed Horizon. A maxed Horizon with the same loadout. I don't know why I scrolled up. Same loadout right at the same cargo capacity. A little bit more naturally, but obviously immediately the Amalgam is going to get more resources because of the percentage by itself than a Horizon, which you would expect. Now let's scale it back, because it is a level 31 ship to start with. What does it look like compared to, say, a Cavort? Well, here's a tier 6 Cavort, which I think is what an average player might have. Mine is at 4 million total cargo, right around 4 million. It's about 3.8 something. So 3.8 million cargo, about triple. However, if we're talking about hitting a bigger base, I'm obviously going to pull a bigger percentage. Now, overall, let's continue to look at it from a as this grows perspective and how much better can this get. And then we'll talk about that here on the screen. And then we're going to talk about the refinery aspect. So from the rating aspect, one thing that I wanted to compare is to show you this screenshot. And then I'll put some side-by-sides on the screen to talk about cost. Because what I really want to focus on is lower level players. And when I'm talking lower levels, I'm talking to you in the low and mid 30s. Does the Amalgam have value for you? And this is an example of how it does.
Please, sir, I want some more.
Now this is a tier 6.5 Amalgam. So when we're talking about percentages, you're talking if you've leveled it up. Keep in mind, you've got to level it up to get there. A tier 6 Amalgam, level 30 is going to have a 0.07%. So 7 times as much that it's going to draw from what we were looking at before. So if we were just going to do a numerical value back when we had that, I think we did 12.7. So I'll run that real quick. 12.7 billion. If we were to take that same multiplier that we had before, and now we do a 7, we're bringing in an extra almost 9 million if you've leveled it up to that degree. And here's why I bring in that tier, like a tier 5 or a tier 6 mattering. Tier 5, let's go with that one. Let's go with tier 5, which will take you to 0.05. So even that's times 5, still pulling in an extra 6 million. Here's why this is so big, and we'll put this on the screen. The cost of upgrading to tier 5 on the Amalgam is so cheap. It only is 3-star materials up to tier 5. Amalgam parts, the grind is the only thing that's going to get you. There is a grind for the Amalgam parts, but 2 billion titanium, but it's a rating ship, pays for it. But uncommon 3-star ore, only 793 raw to get you to tier 5. Only 211 raw crystal to get you to tier 5. Now let's flip that and compare it to an Antares. An Antares to max out, which will not have as much resources in terms of rating ability as a tier 5 Amalgam, is going to cost you 6,600 uncommon gas and 31,000 uncommon crystal. Let's do tier to tier. Tier 5 to tier 5. A tier 5 Antares, raw cost getting it to tier 5, 3,250 uncommon crystal and 656 gas. Only costing you 200 million trip, so much cheaper in a raw resource, but this is what we would rather have. This ship, the Amalgam, is such a cheaper ship when it comes to creating and upgrading from a materials perspective. You can raid for the other things that you need and then grind for the Amalgam parts. And now we'll talk about the refinery here in a second, because that's a big piece. Okay, so the next part, like I said, I want to talk about the refinery real quick and grinding out the materials for going after and upgrading the ship and the currencies that come with it, which is going to be these Klingon or Romulan supply ships. Now, real quick, these spawn in any of the new systems for the Duality War. If you've been following the storyline, any of these systems that have been created do not drain your rep, but do count for your daily. So you can go kill the Romulans if you want to do that without hurting your rep. And then you have the Klingon side as well. And you'll find these traders there. The refinery itself opens up once you get the amalgam, and there'll be a little tab here at the bottom. And then what you need to do is focus on getting plunder. Now, what I've done is, because there is a timer here, I went and got 500,000 so I can get this exocomp. This exocomp is very, very important. Notice the plunder rate. See how the 9,900% bonus? So I'm going to do my 2 chest pull. The reason being is I want 2 of these. I want to get as many of these as I can. So I went out with my Vidar to grind these out. Now what I can do is use this very, very nice exocomp. I've got to go find it first. Mr. Exocomp, where are you? Now, this will replace, because I don't have the extra one yet, but my amalgam plundering. Now what I can do is I can come into this system, and just for the sake of the video, I'm going to spawn this in. Here's my amalgam. And I'm going to go tell my amalgam to hit this Klingon supply ship with this exocomp active. Now, you can see I've only got, this side. I've only got 1.2 million cargo on me, but I'm going to fill this up at once, where these only pay out between 9 and 11,000 per. Now, it's the same in all the systems. It's the exact same trader every time, but it pays out about 11K each. However, that's completely fine. And you use this exocomp to greatly increase the amount that you can get with your amalgam. Now, if you'll see, I took a little bit of damage, but I got over 1 million from that one, thanks to what's essentially a 10,000% increase, allowing me now to, well, go back, redock, so that I can focus on this part of the refinery right here, getting the parts I need, which is 2 million per. 2 million. But that's only 2 hits if I did the grind with the plunder to get the exocomp. So in terms of time, I know a lot of people were worried, well, am I going to have time to do all this? Yes. Short answer, yes. It's literally going to take me 2 hits a day if I'm going through and collecting my plunder to go ahead and do my refine. And if I'm using this, I can actually create a horde of this and get several million a day because of how long this lasts. It lasts for an hour. So as many times as I can go back and forth and hit these, I can simply get more and more amalgam to where I can create a storage and then turn this in every day. And then eventually, as more things get access to and more things get added, we can start focusing on other things in the store, but working on our amalgam refinery token, which I'm going to do this a couple of times and then we'll pull this one. All right. So as my amalgam is now flying home with cargo, right at 1 million cargo for these, I want to talk about the refinery again, because one thing that I want to harp on, one, getting started a little bit. Here's my strategy. You simply need to come out here and grind. If you've got a max Vidar, which I do, without doing a cargo hold with like Stan and stuff like that, you just need to get about 500,000 worth with your Vidar. So you got to kill about 50 of them, which is fine, simple math. And the reason being, as you saw the pull for the amalgam here, you want to get this one, bam, right behind me. You want to be able to pull this one and get the first 2. And what I'm doing now is throughout the hour, I'm going to take advantage of this exocomp, and I'm just going to run and shuttle my amalgam back and forth, because this is what you want to pull. You need 2 million to pull it, which sounds insane until you get an amalgam. And then once we pull that, bam, click it. Now there is a cooldown timer, but I'm going to get 2,350 amalgam parts and 375 refinery tokens. And then we've got, oh gosh, we got so many different tabs. We're going to have a refinery tab for our refinery tab for going to the type of refineries that we want our refinery tab to go to. But anyway, we've got all this going on, and now I can have parts to work on upgrading my amalgam. And 2,000 parts will not get me super far, but it will help me along the journey of upgrading and getting to the next tier. And we had the price list of the different things on the screen. To get to tier 2 is not super expensive. I think it's like 9,200 amalgam parts. That will take a few days if you're wanting to do it from the get-go, saving up towards that. For you to go buy that though, this one getting you to tier 2 is $50. So I'll try to save myself $50, but getting to, tier 5, as we see with that screenshot they had earlier, and I can put that back on the screen. You can see this is where the value starts coming in. Once it's tiered up just a few tiers, not even maxed, you're able to pull a tremendous amount of resources depending on what type of base you're hitting. But even just a few billion can start resulting in you pulling way more than you ever were before with a faction miner. The only thing really comparable to this is the Nova. a level 52 ship for the whales. 51. Big. Way out there. Warp Mazer has 6 of them. Shout out Warp Mazer. Nova's pulling in 20 million. Great. But as a level 31 player, as you progress to upgrade this, because you don't have to get 4-star materials until the 6th tier, if I remember right. It's 6th tier for the Amalgam, you start needing 4-star. So, I mean, through the mid and early 30s, you can now have for a very long time in the game the ability to get the dilithium that you need for research and the titanium you need for upgrades. Are still very important, and I'm not saying it's not. But when it comes to what you need the most in the game, what you start finding is the most valuable resource in the 30s and stuff, dilithium. So many resources start costing hundreds of millions in dilithium, and you need to find a way to procure that better than the events, which have been paying out tremendous amounts. And I think that's a very big positive. I'm going to repair real quick, and we're going to take a look at what we can upgrade with our Amalgam. And real quick, we'll talk about some of the negatives of the Amalgam in terms of where it's not very strong compared to like an Antares. Number one, not very strong, the mining laser. Starts off at 750, doesn't even make it to 1,000% at max. So not the strongest there, and very slow with an impulse speed of 72. That's going to be a problem for a lot of players. That is going to be a big negative. If we're talking about upgrading the cargo bay, which doing that pull will let me do now, it does have a decent growth as we upgrade these different pieces, which is nice. So it's not a necessarily slow progression. You're going to see consistent, growth there. Also getting the warp range up, a very nice warp range jump immediately, and get our impulse engines, get a little bit more impulse speed, because God, this tier 1 is so slow. But now working on that, you can see got more protected and a little bit more cargo for me to continue this grind that I'm currently doing in Kushrock, where I'm just going through using my Vidar to clear out these so that more of the traders will spawn, and that way I can collect more and more Amalgam. And there's a Tigger. Good to see Tigger in here. Tigger, don't hit me. We don't need any stuff right now. We don't need any of that bull. Chill out. So we've gone over the math of the Amalgam, the bonuses to the Amalgam, the refinery of the Amalgam, and everything that you really need to know about it, the newest ship in the game for you, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, but that tends to happen when we're going over something like we are today. So smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe. Deuces, that's me. Live long and prosper. Stay safe for those Space Cowboys. I'll catch you on the next one. So glad you hung out with us and hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions about it, drop it down below. Let's go.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.